Next up is a man who wears many hats: lawyer, minister, mental health advocate, beekeeper, black belt, and probably undercover superhero. The Honorable Michael Tibollo has spent over 30 years juggling justice, community, and cabinet meetings while somehow finding time to volunteer, speak 4 languages, practice taekwondo, and yes, tend to bees. He's Ontario's first Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, the past minister, thank you, a 5th degree black belt, so behave, and fluent in everything from policy to pollen. Please welcome the one-man government department, the Honorable Michael Tibollo.
Good morning, everyone. That's great, thank you. Good morning. It is great to be here this morning. I originally came in with extensive notes, and I spoke to Dr. Clark. I said, I'm ready to go. Got 40 minutes of speaking notes. He said, Minister, it's not 40 minutes. And I said, what do you mean it's not 40 minutes? You didn't come here to inflict pain. You're supposed to talk about pain and how to manage pain. And so I thought, okay, well, let me leave my notes and just speak briefly for a few minutes and thank, first of all, the organization for inviting me, but also to speak a little bit about some of the things that I heard this morning and some of the things that I know, given my background and my work. Before coming to government, I was a practicing lawyer, but I dedicated a lot of my time to working with men with addictions. And in a lot of cases, I've met many people that come in that talk about the pain that they used to have and how they ended up with an addiction because of trying to manage pain. And it's interesting when you looked at those statistics from Family Feud there about how do you, from 1975. It's interesting because the Mental Health Act in 1975 did not talk about addictions. The Mental Health Act does not have a lot of the work or a lot of the things that we know today about things like addictions and the implications with mental health and concurrent disorders. And so when you have the opportunity to sort of step up, and I did by putting my name forward and running in 2018, I came to government, and the first thing that I was handed was Solicitor General's portfolio, Community Safety and Corrections, as it was then known. And so I spent some time, I got an opportunity to see what was happening in our corrections facilities. And I got to see a lot of the problems and the fact that they weren't really being addressed, that people were really being warehoused and not being given opportunities to get better. And from there, I was eventually moved to tourism, culture, and sport, and I had the opportunity to meet some really interesting people, one being Pope Francis. And he talked to me about the importance of activities for youth and providing them the most opportunities possible to build resiliency, to educate, to make them stronger, to make them more focused on life and the direction to move forward. And then from there, eventually, the Ministry of Fun is great, but the Ministry of Fun is not why I came to government. I came to government because I really wanted to look at policies and how they affect individuals and how we can better people's lives, especially when it comes to healthcare. And so from there, in a conversation with the Premier, he said, you know what? Mental health and addictions is probably something we need to look at. And he was bang on with that because as we see, mental health and addictions has implications in pretty well every aspect of our lives, at pretty much every point during the developmental stages of our lives. And so to not be focused on that and try to find a way to build a line of sight from government standpoint so we break down silos and the stigma associated with mental health and addictions, these problems persist. So the roadmap to wellness was written, and I remember drafting the document, putting it together, and eventually presenting it on March 6, 2019. Anyways, when we announced it, the COVID-19 started, and it layered on a whole bunch of other issues and problems that needed to be addressed. Because now we have all these people in isolation, not being able to see each other, not being able to deal with or to even see a doctor. And so the addictions obviously started to increase. Mental health issues started to increase. And all these different issues had implications as to how you develop policies to help individuals. Can you develop policies that are visual, remote, that are usable in a way that's going to make a difference in people's lives. So we looked at structured psychotherapy as a way to alleviate some of the pressures. We saw more anxiety and depression. We still see it today. And of course, our youth. We saw our youth under more stress and more strain. And of course, as their development stage is so important, that lack of socialization created even more problems. And so how do you address all those issues? It was not an easy time. It really wasn't an easy time. And I can remember we were in cabinet 6, 7 times a day. I actually had to stop working on my doctorate for almost 2 years because the amount of time that I was spending in cabinet was impossible to find blocks of time at night or in the afternoon or on the weekends because cabinet meetings used to run 24/7. So I parked it for a while. I finally completed in just last year, 2025, on September the 11th. I completed it. I got my doctorate. My focus is on utilization of residential therapeutic communities for the treatment of addictions and concurrent disorders. It's a mouthful, but what it really is all about is how do we habilitate or rehabilitate people? How do we utilize upstream investments so that we're not looking at just helping someone recover and provide them the treatment that's necessary to recover, but what can we do to build resiliency in people? And I think there's a lot of parallels when you talk about pain management. What do we have in the way of resources that we can invest upstream, whether it be in government, whether it be with allied health professionals, doctors, psychiatrists? What else can we do? And one of the things and one of the challenges I believe is that, and wasn't mentioned here today, which is interesting because we talked about all the allied health professionals, but we didn't talk about culturally appropriate and safe care. And again, from my standpoint, that is critical. Without the services that are being provided that are geared to the needs of the individual, you will never have a solution. A one-size-fits-all solution will never work. What will work is understanding the needs of the individual and providing them the supports necessary. That brought me to look at things like Ayurvedic medicine. It got me to look at things like acupuncture, Chinese therapies, Chinese medicine. Why? Because our population is not a single group of individuals. It's people from all over the world. And there are interventions that we can use as upstream investments like meditation, like yoga, like Ayurvedic medicine, naturopathic solutions to problems. And these are the things that I think we need to look at if we're going to build a system that's going to be working for the needs of the individual. And those upstream investments, and I think that's one of the things that's really, really important to have as an organization, is to always look for upstream investments. When we talk about the needs of individuals, why wait till the person to get sick? And that's the problem I see in the systems that we have. You know, whether we talk about my work when I was in the healthcare side, I would look at it and I think to myself, is this really a healthcare system? Our medicine's reactionary. We wait for you to get sick and then you can go to the hospital. How about looking to determine why the person gets sick in the first place and making investments to ensure that the person doesn't get sick? And I have many examples like that. Ayurvedic medicine, for instance. I had the opportunity in Delhi to meet with a group of doctors, Western doctors and Ayurvedic doctors. And all of them talked about how they could extend the life of the individual in a healthy way without clinical interventions. Now, what does that mean? A person that needs to have a hip replaced in Delhi or in India will be able to live till they're 70, 75 with a very low threshold of pain by adopting different strategies to help that person meditate, yoga, different aspects, naturopathic medicine to keep them healthy longer, meaning the intervention, the surgical intervention doesn't have to happen till later. And I went around a table and I listened to every discipline, and it was fascinating to hear how every one of them could extend the life of the individual with less pain by utilizing simple strategies, upstream investments to keep the person healthier longer. And these are the types of things I think are very relevant, very important to look at, not just for the people that are from South Asia, but also for the people, for all of us, because those interventions work if you have an opportunity to have access to them. So these are the type of things I think are really important. And of course, from the health perspective and seeing a system that's reactionary to people that are sick, now I'm in justice. And so having spent 30 years practicing law, I've got a little bit to say about that too. And isn't it the same thing when you think about a system, a policing system that's working to try to enforce the law, as opposed to what their primary mandate is, to educate and prevent crime? So how do you educate and prevent if you're spending all the time enforcing? It's a problem. Why? The system is broken. So how do you fix the system? You need those upstream investments. You need to intervene with young people, whether it be through our youth wellness hubs, whether it be through the justice hubs that we're trying to develop now in the province of Ontario, whether it be taking these individuals not into the criminal justice system, but putting them into a drug court or putting them into a mental health court, giving them the opportunities to get better. And of course, you've all heard what's happened out in BC. You've seen what's happened in Toronto on Yonge Street with that violent incident that occurred a few years ago. You have to stop and think to yourself, where are we as a society? If a person is sick, if a person does not recognize that they are sick, is there something we should do as a society to perhaps intervene and provide compassionate interventions? Do we regain the safety or public safety on the streets by doing something a little more proactive, or do we simply not do anything at all and allow individuals who are sick continue to stay sick? And that's something that, for me, is very important and very much part of the work that I do. Again, when we look at the active ingredients of how we build a society that's going to be strong, that's going to be vibrant, that's going to be safe, we need to understand what the needs of individuals are. We need to address them by providing them compassionate supports whenever we can. And that doesn't mean taking away anyone's rights, but it also means taking into account the safety of public and ensuring that our rights are protected on both sides. And so I have the flip side of the mental health coin now, not on the healthcare side, but on the side of justice. And I'm very interested, obviously, in seeing the system that's built, that's transformed from existing, the existing system that we have. I think you'll all agree the healthcare system is broken. I think you'll all agree that our public safety is of concern to all of us as citizens. And so how do we fix them? It requires transformation. It requires change. It requires all of you to be part of that solution, to provide us in the bubble at Queen's Park the information we need to make the appropriate investments, to pilot the appropriate projects, to ensure that we build a system that's compassionate and caring to everyone. With that, I want to wish you all a fantastic day today, a fantastic conference. I look forward to also hearing some of the outcomes and participating in however I can. I am completely and totally accessible anytime. You can look me up on the internet, you'll see me there. I really am truly interested in building something that works for the people of the province of Ontario and addresses the needs of everyone in a very compassionate, a very client-centered, and very holistic way. And I think if we do all of those things, we can alleviate some of the issues by making the upstream investments that are necessary. God bless you all. Thank you very much.